Hello and welcome to Ask the Pastor on 97.1 Hope Radio, KCMI. And my name is Pastor Ken Boehr from Mitchell Berean Church.
I'm Cody Peterson from Westway Christian Church.
I'm Antonio Cortez from the Rock Church. Today we're going to be talking about kind of how we got into worship ministry and what we're doing right now. I grew up. I come from a line of pastors and musicians and worship pastors on my dad's side of the family, awesome. So it's kind of been in the family ever since. For generations now. I volunteered probably since 6th grade in middle school on the worship team, got plugged into band, and that's where I started learning musicianship and stuff like that. And then 2 years ago, I actually was brought on to staff at my local church, and I've learned a lot ever since. Just being surrounded with like-minded people, and we have the same mission and the same goal. It just really inspires me, and when we do community events like this where we can just come in with each other, surrounding pastors, surrounding worship leaders, and just gain knowledge from each other and collaborate and stuff. And God's still working in me. Actually, I'm in a process of stepping down as worship leader. The Lord has really been calling me for a few months now to take time for myself and not only deepen my faith spiritually, but how do I become a better worship leader? How can I lead people better? And so at this time I will be stepping down, and I'm actually attending Southwestern Assemblies in Waxahachie, Texas for worship leading. So
awesome.
Very excited. In this time that I'm in, the Lord's just really been telling me just to be obedient, and what I've figured is when you're obedient to the Lord, and if it's truly your calling, He will make the way 100%. And so I'm a living testimony in that, and I'm very excited to see where worship ministry takes me in the future.
And your church has given you their blessing.
Absolutely.
Because you're coming back here,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we love working with you and having you in the community,
yeah.
So
yeah.
Come back.
I will.
How long is that program?
It's a 4-year program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How much of that is going to be on site there, and how much is going to be getting plugged into a church?
So the first year or two will be pretty much on site, on campus. You still have to knock out your general eds and stuff like that. But worship wise, great program down there. The worship directors down there took some time off, went out of the country, came back, and have just revitalized it ever since they've been back. And so when I went and visited, the Holy Spirit just told me I knew this is where I was supposed to be. And so just really, really excited for that. And then eventually, it kind of transitions to doing some in the church, on the fields work as well. So
here.
Back here. There, here, we'll see. But yeah, no, that's kind of how like I said, from a young age, worship has always been in my heart and in my family and in my blood. And I know this is what I'm called to do, so.
Great.
Awesome. That's my story.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's super cool that your church is just giving you the blessing to go and take care of this and then come back, and really speaks to like the investment that they want to make in you, because they know that you already have and will continue to be pouring back into the body there. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess my story is very similar to Antonio's, and like I come from a family that kind of had like church and worship ministry ingrained in them. My dad grew up in eastern Nebraska, and he was the youngest of 9 kids, and they were like a traveling singing family. So he started when he was 2 years old, going from church to church with his family around eastern Nebraska, usually little small Church of Christ Christian churches. And so music was something that, like, even growing up, I remember car rides where we would be going to church activities on Wednesday, Sunday, like every time the church was open, we were there and just singing. Like my dad would start singing in the car, and then all of us would join in. And my parents would tell me stories about when I was 2 or 3, like hearing a harmony in the backseat of the car and looking back and saying, "Whoa, that's Cody." So like nice. That's just, it's always been a part of who I am. And I guess the very first time that I thought that was something that God was calling me to, like career wise, was when I was in high school. And I had the blessing of like growing up here in Scottsbluff, and my home church being Westway Christian Church, where I'm on staff now. But the leadership there really invested in me and gave me opportunities to step in and lead and develop my skills, and really have a safe place to learn on the ropes and everything like that. So I was able to lead our youth band and then have opportunity during our Sunday morning services to do that. And through that process, just really felt like God was saying, like, this is what you need to be doing. So I ended up going to Nebraska Christian College in their worship arts program, and I did that for 3 years. And then God made it very clear that there was a change of plans in my life. So I actually changed my major to youth ministry and did student ministry for 10 years.
Cool.
And but worship was still always a part of my ministry. And God allowed me to kind of take the path that I'd been on and in turn turn it and pour into students that had similar interests as me. So we did student bands and different things like that. And it was always still a part of my life. And then here 10 years later, God took me full circle. And I'm back on staff at my home church, the church that poured into me so much. And now I am just blessed. I said that many times, but that's how I feel, just to be able to have the opportunity to pour into many of the people that poured into me when I was a student growing up there, but also students that are coming up, and just give them the same opportunities to lead and grow and serve that I was given. And hopefully
Right.
God has the same plans for some of those students that he has for me. And so.
And you get to be the one building in and
Yes.
creating that spark in them.
Yeah. And so that's the fun part, because I can look back and I know the impact that so many people had on me, and
For
now get to see how all of those from A to Z, that path that God took me on, like I can look back now and say, like, every single thing had a reason, and use all of those experiences that I've gained to do the same and pour into the people that are in my ministry at Westway too. So
Awesome.
It's awesome.
it's a lot of fun. What
Glad
about
you're
you,
out
Ken?
here. Yeah. How did I get into worship ministry? Again, it's a call from God, just like each of you said, but there's a lot of pieces that play into that set you up musically and skill-wise and leadership-wise, and just where he places you. And so, I have a long heritage of ministry in our family too. Grandpa was in China as a missionary. Then Grandpa was a music professor at Grace University, and then my dad led worship at our church, and he's an elementary music teacher, so he was my music teacher coming up, and they valued that and breathed that into me. And we sang a lot. And in 7th grade, after my 7th grade year, coming into 8th grade, I bought my first guitar. And it's actually sitting next to us here in this room. It's an electric guitar. And some friends of mine and I, coming into 8th grade, we finished up our 7th grade year, and we just looked at each other and said, hey, you play piano and you play violin, and that has 4 strings, so does a bass, so that can't be too much different. It is. The intervals are different, but how I approach it is different. But hey, that was junior high thinking. And I just bought a guitar, and these people sing. Why don't we start our own praise team? And our junior high ministry had its own pastor, and it was 7th and 8th grade, and they were okay with that. So we just started jamming, and man, we were so bad. But it gave us that spark, and we were just excited. And that group played together all the way through high school, and even a couple years into college. And it was just a tight group, 7 years together, playing with kind of the same core group of people. You just learn to read each other, and just you breathe a certain way, and the whole band knows exactly where you're going. You rock back a certain way. And then God called me out here for a ministry called Club 2020, and we worked with a whole bunch of different churches to reach junior high kids. And I got to serve at Berean, and I kind of bounced around at different churches and served on worship teams around that time as well. And went up to Shadron for music education, and I kind of played Jonah for a little while, and ran away from God's call in my life. But man, I wouldn't trade that music education training. Everything we do builds into where God wants us. And so now I just see how music education plays such a big role in developing young worship leaders as well. So he's developed the heart in me. And so I moved back down to Scottsbluff and served at Monument Bible for a while, and then ended up, I still love them over there, and ended up over here at Berean. And just part-time at first, as I was teaching band actually at Mitchell. I said I was never going to teach band, and then I taught band for 3.5 years. And then when I took this position part time, which there's no such thing as part time ministry, and I learned that very quickly. And if you are doing it because you're called, you're just passionate and excited about it. So I didn't do part time hours, and so it grew pretty quickly, and the team grew, and the technology and just the demands grew with that, and I just kind of rode that, and now I've got 3 people on staff that work with me with the worship department, and so it just keeps on growing. So now I get to use the gift in kind of another way, and I just have a side passion, just like you, Cody, where you just want to see other people grow in their ability to lead worship. This past weekend, I didn't lead a single song out of all the songs before the message, and there's only one afterward. That's the one I ended up leading, but I didn't lead a single one of them because I just love equipping the saints for the work of the ministry, and that's kind of the latest phase of ministry right now. Is instead of doing the work of the ministry, Ephesians 4 calls us to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. So if I got a full team, I'll let them carry the load and carry the weight, and if I need to step in a little bit more because we got a smaller team, I'll step in and do that. But my job is just to kind of organize it and give people the tools to be able to do it. So that's an exciting phase of where I'm at in ministry.
That's awesome. I love what you said, because I have the same beliefs that it's not all about us. And so, like you said, equipping the saints, and I think there's nothing better than looking over your shoulder and seeing your other leaders rising up and leading songs and doing these events and hosting these things. I mean, it does something for you and does something for them, and just it's an awesome feeling for sure.
Yeah, it really helps it not become about the person leading, and it becomes more about the body singing together. And honestly, I'm still growing in my philosophy of worship and understanding of who God is, and I think that's the whole journey we're on, as we understand that worship is just an outflow, like you were saying in the previous sessions. It's a lifestyle of worship, and what we do on the weekend is just an outflow of that. So who is our real worship leader? It's Jesus. So how are we following Jesus in all of it? So how do we become the worship leader? By following Jesus more and more, and that's true of all of us, because we're completely incapable of leading. And it's so much more than just leading music.
Definitely.
And we're going to get to that in some future sessions, so just debate you a little bit for next time. We're going to be talking about how do we choose songs, and what is our philosophy of worship.
That was probably the biggest thing that I noticed, like coming back into worship ministry in the last year, was how the majority of my job has been more like leading people and developing leaders, and like a lot of times, I think we talked about this in previous sessions too, like the misconception that people have of like singing is worship and worship is only singing, and it's so much more than that. And like it's been cool to see, and like kind of funny how God works sometimes, but just the majority of what I do every Sunday is like you said, organizing, developing leaders, pushing people to grow, and equipping them so that they can do the work of building up the body. So
I heard a quote one time. It said, "Your private worship should never exceed your platform worship." And I think that's what worship is. It's not just us on the platform. It's not us on Sunday mornings. It happens in the weeks leading to it in our own personal lives, and we have to personally do that work before we can lead it out to others. So
definitely,
there should be a disjoint there.
Yeah.
Cody and I were talking, even before you got here, we were just talking about how it's a direction that we're moving.
Absolutely.
And just honoring God in everything that we do. So, well, cool. Next time we'll be talking about philosophy of worship and how we choose music for the weekend services, and why is the flow important, all those kind of things. So please join us next time. You're listening to KCMI Hope Radio 97.1. See you next time.